Hi, it's Brenda. You may or may not have seen the documentary made in 2018. It was called Demon House. Zach Bagans, the host from Ghost Adventures, had bought a house that was reportedly haunted. He then goes ahead and in front of the cameras, he investigates this house, and after deciding that it is a portal to hell, he then has the house demolished. But before the documentary, there was a real family that lived there, and this is their story. So in 2011, Latoya Ammons moved into a house in Gary, Indiana. She moved in with her three children, ages 7, 9, and 12, and her mother, Rosa Campbell. This was a rental home, and it should be noted that the landlord has gone on record as saying that nobody prior to Latoya's residency there ever reported strange happenings, and nobody reported any after. But Latoya moved in and said that the first thing that was odd was, despite the cool temperatures of November, there would be swarms and swarms of flies that would just congregate all over the enclosed front porch. And no matter how many times she would try to kill them off, they would return. And she really describes this as not like a few, pesky flies that somehow got in there, but that she would walk out there and just be swarmed with flies. And if you are like me, you're probably already thinking that that sounds a little reminiscent of the Amityville horror story out of Amityville, New York. So shortly after the fly incidents, there became other strange happenings like footsteps, bangs on the walls. And when it comes to the footsteps, one thing that she says is that they sounded really heavy, like somebody wearing work boots. And one day she happened to find what she says were indentations of boot prints in her carpet. Now, there were no men living in the house. There were two males, but they were very young. They were 7 and 9. One night, Latoya says that she awoke to see a full black apparition coming across her living room. Now, her mom, so the kid's grandma, also corroborated a lot of what, Latoya said was happening in the house. She also reported unusual sounds coming from the basement, footsteps, just sounds that could not be explained. But when the story really takes a turn is when the children start to show strange behavior. Latoya says that the children started to growl and to talk in low, scary voices. And they would say things like, "I'm going to kill you," or "It's time to die." The youngest one seemed to be the most affected, and he apparently would describe what it was like to die. And his eyes would roll back all the way to the back of his head. Now, Latoya let this go for a while. She, like most of us, tried to, come up with rational explanations for things. And even when she realized that she couldn't find other explanations, she just kind of didn't know what to do, didn't know where to turn, didn't know who to talk to. But one night, it came to a head when the 12-year-old daughter allegedly levitated from her bed. The whole family gathered around and prayed until the daughter was released back down to her bed. After this, the mom really thought, you know what, we have got to get some outside help. Like, my children are being affected. She strongly believed at this point that her children, and especially the youngest one, was actually possessed. She was actually becoming afraid for herself and the children. So she reached out to really the only person that she felt comfortable talking to, and that was her family physician. So upon hearing the story, he said, well, I will come out to your house. I'll, have a look around, and then I will talk to you. I will talk to your mom, and I'll talk to the children more in depth about it. And that's what he did. He came out to the house. He spent some time. He, talked to the adults in the house. And then, he spent quite a bit of time talking to the children and, getting a sense of what their experience had been. Well, the physician came to the conclusion that he believed the whole family was delusional. In his defense, there is a phenomenon in psychology where it has been proven that people that spend a lot of time together, and especially people that share a living space, can start to believe in the same delusions. There was a famous case where an entire family started to believe that somebody was after them, and it started with one of the parents kind of becoming convinced of this, and then it slowly trickled through the whole family. And one day they literally got up, packed like one bag each, and took off, just left their home, left their friends, their family, everything behind, and just took off because they were so convinced that somebody was after them. And the doctor believed that that was what was happening here, that LaToya believed that the house was haunted by ghosts, and that her belief was now kind of trickling down to everybody else in the house. And even more, he believed that the children were kind of acting. They were acting so that they could basically, they could fit their behavior into their mother's belief system. In other words, on some level, that they must have believed that this is what she wanted or expected. And so they just, went along with it and they performed. And whether or not they actually believed it, that's another story. But he actually believed in, especially the youngest one, that he was completely acting. So the doctor is so concerned at this point for the children. He believes that they're going to be emotionally and psychologically damaged by being in this situation, that he then reaches out to the police. And I have to tell you, I have researched, read, watched pretty much everything and anything I could find on the paranormal since I was like 12. And it was a long time ago. And I have never seen a case where something like this happened. Really, in so many cases, probably the majority of cases of, hauntings, there are children involved. And I don't recall a case where somebody reached out to the authorities believing that the parents' belief in the paranormal within their home would psychologically damage the children and actually call authorities. If you guys, if any of you know another case where that happened, please let me know. But for me, I don't recall any case. So that was shocking to me when I first started reading about this case, was that authorities were called in, on like a well check on the children. That's kind of scary, because let's say that this story is 100% true. Can you imagine if you were in a situation where, you were being really harassed by some kind of demonic force in your own home, to the point that you felt like you needed help and you needed to reach out to somebody? Can you imagine if you did that and then they turned around and called the authorities and said that you were putting your children's emotional well-being at stake by, this crazy belief that you have? That's alarming. That's alarming if this story is true. I mean, poor Latoya, if it's true. So the police come in. Now, lucky for her at this point of the story, this police officer who had like 27 years under his belt on the force, he believed 100% that this house was haunted, and he believed every word that she said and every word that the children said. So he was like, no, we're good. Like, you should call a priest or something. You need an exorcism, not the police. You need an exorcism. So he believed her, and that's it. He's out of the situation. A priest did actually come in, and 3 exorcisms were done. 2 were done in English, and 1 was done in Latin. But during this time, the school also gets involved. They notice that the children have extended amounts of absences. They're not coming to school regularly. Now, Latoya says that is a direct result of the haunting, that the children were just exhausted. They were either woken up so many times at night, or they were just too upset to go to school. So she completely says that is related to the haunting. However, keep in mind that this is like 2011. I did read, I do not know if it's true. So, this is not, I'm not saying that this is true. I'm saying I read that allegedly she also had issues in 2009 with them not going to school regularly. That may or may not be true, but if it's true, that would have been prior to her living in this home. But anyways, so the school ends up contacting the Department of Social Services, and they come out to do a well check on the children. So, Latoya's got them all coming around at this point, checking on her, checking on the children. So they come in and they end up believing, very much like the doctor, that this is not true. This is either a delusion of the mother or a lie, and that the children are being dragged into it and forced to perform. And one of the things that the caseworker noted was that she felt that the youngest son would begin to act possessed at very convenient times, like whenever he didn't want to answer a specific question. Now, he was very young, so even if some of his behavior was authentic and was based on a possession, it could, also be that if he didn't want to answer these questions or he was stressed out, that he could have been acting. I don't know that one, cancels out the other, if that makes sense. But social services was so concerned that they end up taking the children to the hospital to be evaluated. Now, one of the caseworkers that was at the hospital, this is huge. One of the caseworkers that was at the hospital says that she witnessed the youngest child walk up the wall backwards in a way that would not be humanly possible. This was also allegedly seen by a nurse, but the social worker that seen it, she was so upset and claimed to be so traumatized by what she saw that she not only dropped the case out of fear of this, demonic presence somehow attaching itself to her, but she actually ended up quitting her job and moving to another state. She was interviewed years later and said that she just wanted to get as far away as possible from what she witnessed in that hospital. However, not everybody felt the same as her, and social services ended up removing the children from the home. They ended up keeping custody of the children for 6 months before returning them back to Latoya. And what she needed to do in order to get her children back included moving. So she needed to move, and she needed to find suitable housing for the children. which she did. And they ended up moving, I believe, to Indianapolis, and she got her children back, and she said she never had any other problems. So that's a lot. Like, that is a lot. The thing with the social worker really, that got me, because this is not, this is not Joe Schmo off the street. This is, this is somebody who you would think, would give a truthful account of what she saw. And she 100% believed LaToya after what she witnessed in the hospital. So, like I said, there were 3 exorcisms done after a priest witnessed behavior in the children that caused him to bring the matter to the bishop, and they did sanction an exorcism. So there were 3 done in total. After LaToya moved away, I believe that there was another tenant for a short period of time, but ultimately the house sold for a mere $35,000, if you can believe that. And that was like, I want to say 2014. So that's like so cheap. Well, that's when Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures gets involved, and he buys the house. And he did his own investigation, and so much happened. You got to check out that documentary. I believe you can buy it on Amazon Prime. At one point it was on Netflix, but I don't know if it still is. But you can get it, you can stream it. And he says that this house was absolutely demonic, that there is no way that what LaToya said happened did not happen. He said that he believed that it was an actual portal to hell, that there was so much demonic activity in the house. During the filming of his documentary, a lot of things happened to the people that were filming, including a lot of health issues, like serious ones. One person ended up in the hospital. He took sick suddenly and ended up in the hospital. Zach ended up with eye vision problems when he said he had no prior issues. He had a falling out with a close friend who was working on this project with him, and says that the friend became possessed, that he became possessed and started acting strange. It became very volatile towards other members of the crew, and says that even all this.
Meanwhile.
Okay, so my battery totally died. So I'm just going to wrap it up by saying, I don't know on this one. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I did like the documentary. I don't know. Zach, I really did like the documentary, but Zach was a little much at times in the documentary, so I don't know. As far as LaToya, I don't know. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. Let me know what you think. Did you believe her story? The landlord did say she was behind on rent, and he thought that was why she made it up. But I don't know. I feel like it's always the reason given as to why somebody would make up a story of a haunting, and I just don't know that that's a good enough reason. I don't know. Maybe she really believed it, but I don't know if it was true. It could just be something that she believed, and maybe the children believed it because she believed it. But then it could be absolutely true, and it could have been a nightmare house. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you know the story, and if you think that it was a haunted house, even a portal to hell, as Zach described it, or if you think that it was just a family delusion. Okay, I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.